All right, you guys, here we are. Another episode of Behind the Visual, the podcast where I interviewed all those people responsible for creating all the images and videos you see out in your world every day. I am your photographer and your host, and I am a photographer. I'm your host and a lifestyle and advertising photographer. So let's go with that, first of all. And maybe I could be your photographer. Depends, I guess. Maybe I am. So anyway, today's guest is Art Streiber. Art is an amazing photographer. He's probably shot any major celebrity you can think of. Art has shot them, and he has shot them for all different types of things, from movie posters to magazines and probably everything in between. And this episode, we talk about how Art got started as a photographer. We talk about a huge shoot that he did for the Paramount 100th anniversary, where they had 100 of their top stars all on stage at one time, and how it took him months of planning, a week of setup. And not only does he talk about how he did it, but he even shows some pictures of the equipment they used and how they did it. So this is definitely one, if you can watch the YouTube, you should probably watch the YouTube video on this thing, because it's incredible. 80 packs. Lighting packs, and the way they set it up, it's an amazing little deal there. He shows you all the kind of behind the scenes stuff there. He also talks about how, as a photographer, you probably are not your best critic, so maybe you want to get somebody else to look at your stuff and help you out a little bit with that. Also talks about going to the White House and shooting for the Obamas, President Obama and Michelle Obama, and what it took to get through there. The drugs, bomb sniffing dogs, and all that kind of stuff. So what else is there? Oh God, he's talking about a shoot he did with Faye Dunaway. And we talk a little bit about his daughter, who's Siena Streiber, who, if you go to Siena Streiber on YouTube, you can see the concert. She's released a new album. So I brought that up because I saw that. He shot a little bit of stuff for her for that. So check it out, man. I mean, there's a lot going on here, a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool things we talked about, especially if you're into photography. This is a great one to check out. So hope you guys enjoy this one.
Red, or render red, really just, it's awful.
Yeah, great. And I was trying to figure, I thought, well, hell, he's got a great camera, and what is it?
So I'm at my desk, and there is a tripod behind the desk, 2 legs on the desk, 1 leg on the floor.
Okay.
The only issue with the 5D Mark III is that the video cuts out after 30 minutes. So I just have to turn the camera on, turn the camera off. The 5D Mark IV doesn't have that built-in quitting mechanism. But what's spectacular is at f4.
That's amazing.
Everything's out of focus. And I think there are so many things that people aren't thinking about now that we're online all the time on Zoom. And that is, first of all, the camera position. Yeah. A lot of people are looking down into their laptops, and that's no good. Then there's the lighting issue. And then there's the background. Like, you've done a very good job of having the converging lines back there, but so many people, just shoot against a flat surface. Yep. And with the laptop or the desktop giving you everything sharp, we spend an awful lot of our time looking at the pictures and trying to read the bookshelves. And like, I'm trying to make out those photos behind you, right, recognize the Rolleiflex. And here, everything falls out of focus. So you kind of know what it is, but you don't really know what it is. And your eye just keeps moving through the frame. That's
genius. Yeah, that was great. Well, thank you for doing this. I'm glad we were able to make it happen. Yeah, I know you've been very busy lately, so I appreciate you being able to come on here and do this whole thing. So, hey, first of all, how long have you known Ken Zane?
Ken and I met at the Palm Springs Photo Festival probably 6 or 7 years ago, and we're in the habit of only seeing each other every year. Right. But now we are on a weekly Friday at 4:30 Zoom with a number of art buyers and reps and just kind of Palm Springs refugees. And And I'm going to do his podcast, I think, in a couple of weeks.
I just met him from doing the podcast. He's a great dude. I really like him.
He's a great guy. Great guy.
I saw on Instagram that your daughter has an album that she just put out.
That is correct. That has been a long time coming, believe me.
So has she been passionate about that for a while?
She has. She's a very talented singer-songwriter, and she wrote a number of those songs 6, 7, 8 years ago. And just through a series of, events that we can all relate to, just never got it, out there.
Well, at least she's got, I haven't heard it yet. I saw that you put it out there and I haven't had time to take a listen to it, but I also saw that she had somewhat of a decent photographer shooting her promotional stuff for it. For what it looked like.
She had one of my former interns, and who's now a very talented working photographer and photo assistant, do the album work. But then one day she said, "We're doing promotional photos tonight." And I said, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
And we were lucky enough to be able to pull it off, right out in front of our house, sitting in her mother's car.
Okay. Well, it's nice to know I'm not the only one whose family just comes up to them at random moments and says, "Hey, we're doing a shoot. Come on." And you got to grab it and run. I also saw that you did a thing with class of 2020. What made you come up with that idea and do that?
I am on the board of trustees at a school here in West Los Angeles where both of our daughters went to school. And I know a number of the senior parents, and I'd seen a number of the projects that had been done in April and May regarding seniors. And I really wanted to do something for the kids. And before the pandemic hit, literally in February, one of the senior mothers had said, "Hey, will you come to pre-prom and, set up a seamless," which I had done for my daughters years ago. And I said, absolutely. So when prom dissolved,
right,
they came back to me and said, "What about a senior project?" And I said, "Okay, here's what we could do." And I really wanted to not just do a series of portraits of the kids. I wanted to go beyond just them sitting on a stool.
Yeah.
And so I really encouraged them to bring their college essay to life, to bring some kind of an object or prop or something that helped people understand what they're about. So I don't know if you saw them, but surfboard, dog, skateboard, musical.
Probably gonna have to do a serve for the volleyball or as well.
But then when they arrived in the backyard here at the office, and they were wearing their masks, and I thought, I got to do that. So I photographed each of them wearing their masks, because I think taking the traditional, high school portrait and masking it was just going to be kind of weird and sad. And also an incredibly bizarre moment in time to capture and be able for them to look back in 10, 20, 30, 40 years, how fascinating are what few pictures there are from the pandemic of 1918.
Right. Yeah.
1917, 1918. And so to be able to have contributed in some small way to the documentation of what we're going through really resonated for me.
I thought it was great. I thought it was much better than when you see the normal senior portrait kind of things. It was really cool. And I enjoyed it, even with the mask, seeing with the mask on and all that as well. I thought it was perfect because these kids can look back on it and go, look, this is, show their kids, this is what we had to go through. Here's us with the mask on. And then they got you to shoot it on top of it. So they did well all the way around on that thing, I think. How'd you distribute those to them? Was it like send them a link and they download it, or
well, we did a number of things. I use a an online archive storage software that I highly recommend to all of your listeners called DF Studio. And
Via?
DF Studio comes from a company in Culver City called Digital Fusion. And I have been using their online archiving and editing. And by editing, I mean selecting.
Okay.
I don't mean post-production.
You know how long
I've
it
been
took me
using-
to accept that as a term? Because I had so many.
I don't accept it.
My assistant would say, well, I'm editing pictures. Like, well, how hard can that be? I go through them. She said, I'm paying somebody to edit. I'm like, you're paying somebody to edit your images? And then I found out what she meant was retouching. I was like, okay.
No. I pushed back. I've been pushing back on that one for about 6 years, and I will continue to push. But that ship has sailed because there are new Apple billboards up around Los Angeles with what's obviously a post-produced, photoshopped image, and the caption is edited on iPhone. I went, well,
yeah,
that battle is lost, but in professional and semi-professional circles, I'm going to continue to push for the nomenclature. So anyway, we distributed the images to the parents through DF Studio links, but also one of the parents designed and put out a book.
Oh, wow.
Wait, let me see if I know where that is. And, there we go. Wow. Kind of a nice size. So here is Unmasked.
Oh, wow.
And they put them in alphabetical order and did the portrait with the mask on one side and what I will call the biopic
Yeah.
on the other side. Oh, there's the
Well
volleyball.
done. Yeah, that was the one at first. Well, my daughters play volleyball, so when I saw that shot, that immediately stuck out in my head.
So there's Unmasked.
That was very cool, and it's designed well. I like the way they did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was cool. So when did you first know you wanted to be a photographer when you first started shooting? Mine was when I was very little. I saw my dad doing some stuff in the dark room. I was like, that's what I want to do. When did it kick in for you?
My grandfather was a very, very avid amateur. He had his own darkroom, and in about 8th grade, he sold me and my brother Paul a Canon AE1 for $5 and threw in a 50 millimeter or a 35 millimeter lens for $2.
Wow.
And handed me a roll of Tri-X. I went to school not knowing anything, shot the roll, brought it back to his darkroom, and honestly, the magic of the process of taking this thing and taking it out in the dark, running it through the chemistry, hanging it to dry, putting the negative in the enlarger, the process.
Yeah.
I'm a process person, and I love process and results. I wish I could apply that to cooking. But that's what really got me excited. So I got hooked pretty darn hard in 8th grade. I had been using my father's Nikon F. And by the time I was a junior and senior in high school, I was the photography editor of the student paper and yearbook.
You did both,
and it just kind of took off from there.
All right. That's kind of similar to me. My dad was a photographer. He had his own darkroom. I saw a picture of Evel Knievel come up in the pan one day, and I was like, that's cool. I want to do that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then started shooting in school. And then I was actually shooting, I wasn't on both yearbook and newspaper. I was on the newspaper. And then I was also sneaking my cameras into concerts, taking pictures at concerts, and then selling them to all the girls.
That's a great scam.
Yeah, I'd make up little prints and hand them out, like write your name on the back. They're $5 a print or whatever, and then end up selling them to them along the way. So is that what? So at that point, did you know that this is what you want to do as a career, kind of a thing, or is it jump?
By about my senior year in high school, freshman year in college, I was completely hooked. And like I said, I loved the process. And I didn't honestly understand what my father did, and he was a kind of a accountant, controller, banker,
Okay.
and I knew he sat at a desk,
Yeah.
but I didn't understand what sitting at a desk meant in terms of processor, moving papers around. And now I love sitting at my desk.
Yeah.
Now I get it, but I didn't get it then. What I understood was this photographic process and how magic that was, and kind of understood that it was going to open all kinds of doors for me to see things that I wouldn't normally see. And I had also fallen in love, probably in fourth grade, with the idea of the field trip, of going to the farm and seeing how cows got milked, going to the bottling plant and seeing how stuff got, like going behind the scenes and, again, process. So I was able to take the photographic process and bring it and go behind the scenes all over the place, roaming the sidelines, going to meetings, getting entree to places that the average person just didn't get to see, just literally pulling back the curtain on the Wizard of Ozziness of anything and everything.
It's amazing the things you get to do by being in this profession. Did you go to college for photography, or did you get a degree in something else?
I did not. Well, tangentially. The irony is that very same grandfather was a Stanford alum, and I went to Stanford. And before I left, he told me photography is an avocation. It is not a vocation.
Okay.
This is a hobby, not a job, which is what it was for him.
Right. Yeah.
He ran a small business, medium-sized business. And I said, yes, sir, I absolutely get it. No problem. And I got to Stanford, walked into the Stanford Daily, and I was a communications major. One of my great regrets, I can copy edit like a crazy person, but I should have done sociology, psychology, American history, because those are the things that, A, I'm fascinated with, and B, really inform, I think, a photographer's understanding of how to interact with people and take in all of the stimuli that we're bombarded with.
Yeah, I think psychology I have a communications degree as well. Mine's in media advertising, but I think I think you're right but the psychology part would have been good to have in there to understand.
Yeah, mine is print and broadcast journalism.
Okay. Yeah, I was probably 2 classes short of media advertising and broadcast production. But my dad was paying for it at the time. And I said, well, I'm going to stick around. I got another semester and I'm going to have a double major. And he's like, no, you can pay for it yourself if you want to do that. And I was like, all right, I'm out.
There you go.
Because I'd already been 4.5 years. And what are you going to do with a double major in communications anyway?
Good question.
So at what point, when you started shooting, got out of school, started shooting, at what point did you think, this is it, this is going to be a good career, and maybe even the point where you thought, I'm going to have a better than average career, as opposed to the guys shooting the family portraits and the weddings and whatever else, just all locally?
Well, to be honest, I didn't have a broad education in different photographic genres or routes. I grew up in Los Angeles and didn't know that Hollywood was about 25 or 30 minutes away. I worked at a small camera store in one of the western suburbs of Los Angeles called Pacific Palisades. And I thought photography was photojournalism. I thought photography was Time, Life, Sports Illustrated, National Geographic. And that's the road I thought I was going down. I thought that one worked for a newspaper, and then one jumped to Time, Life, Sports Illustrated, National Geographic, because that's what those guys were doing in the late 70s and 80s. That's where they had come from, or they'd worked for the wire services. So I was never consciously saying, okay, there's no way I'm doing weddings or kids. I am choosing photojournalism. I just pursued this thing that I thought was the thing.
Right. Okay.
So, which I think was beneficial because as a photojournalist, and then as a magazine photographer, I had to shoot anything that came along.
Oh, yeah.
And let me back up. I graduated, did an internship at a newspaper in Riverside, California. So I was, on my way to newspaper photography. And then the internship ended, but the end of my senior year and that summer, I met a woman who had been in my magazine writing communications class. She was a graduate student. And she got hired at the Riverside Press Enterprise after her internship. I did not get hired. So I went back to the small camera store, started freelancing. She was in Riverside for 3 months and moved to Los Angeles. And she went to work for Women's Wear Daily and W, Fairchild Publications, back then. And Fairchild had this one kind of consumer broadsheet, W, and it had Women's Wear Daily, DNR, Footwear News, Supermarket News. It had all these trade publications. And I started freelancing for them. And then she and I started dating. And we're still married 30 years later, but that's not the point of the story.
Impressive.
The point of the story is, yes, she is fabulous. That's really the point of the story. And that's the end of the interview.
Okay.
So the point of the story is that I joined the staff of essentially a newspaper magazine group. And I had to shoot and teach myself on the spot travel photography, food photography, event photography, portrait photography, fashion photography. So I was working across 6 or 7 genres.
Wow.
And doing it on my own without any feedback or editor or mentor or anything. Literally making it up as I went.
You didn't have anybody to call? Because I've only shot food like twice, but I have friends who shoot food. So I would go like, and I tried to get out of it. I didn't want to shoot the food, but the art director really liked me and wanted me to shoot it and insisted. So I called a friend. I was like, how do I shoot food? And they kind of walked me through it and how to do it. So did you have anybody you could call and ask, or you just literally just set it up? Because it's not like you were shooting digital and you could look at it and go, other than your Polaroid.
You and I have the exact same story. And the only, well, there's 2 stories, but I'll tell you the food story first. The food story is that one of my closest friends from preschool was going to Art Center College. And he was actually learning, lighting technique in school. And I had a food assignment and I called him up and I said, Cam, how do you shoot food? And he said, put the light behind the food. And I said, thanks, man. So I got out a softbox, put it behind the food, and now I was shooting food. That's story number 1. Story number 2 is I have long believed and practiced this idea that what I do, I can't do alone.
Yeah.
And back in those days, whether I was calling my friend Cameron or in college, I wanted to put up lights in the basketball arena.
Oh, yeah.
So I called Sports Illustrated. I'm a punk college kid. And I said, hi, who do I talk to about lighting arenas? And they said, oh, you want to talk to John Haight? And I said, yes, I do. So Andy Haight was one of Sports Illustrated's top photographers, and his brother John was traveling the country putting up, I believe, Broncolors in the 4 corners of basketball stadiums in advance of whatever game Sports Illustrated was shooting.
Oh, wow.
Then tearing them down, getting on the road, driving to the next arena. So I got John on the phone. There's no internet.
Yeah.
There's no email. There's no texting. And this guy very nicely told me how to do it. So I developed this habit of reaching out to people and saying, hi, how do you do this? And, building off of their, experience and answer, because like you pointed out, I didn't have a regular mentor, teacher, somebody that would give me feedback.
Well, that probably worked out by asking multiple people in different disciplines, as opposed to having, say, one mentor who kind of knew how to do everything, trying to teach you how to light an arena when they really didn't know. So it's probably worked out better, I would think.
Well, I think you're right. I like to think that I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none.
Yeah.
And when my wife and I, we were engaged, we were working at Women's Wear Daily and W in Los Angeles. It's 1989. And the editor in New York called us up and said, how would you guys like to work in the Milan Bureau? And we said, we've never been to Milan. And he said, why don't you go check it out? Let us know what you think. So 4 months later, we moved to Italy. And we moved in October, and the spring fashion shows back then were in October. So right. I think we landed on a Thursday, and I was expected to be shooting runway in Milan on film that Saturday. So again, I called up an American photographer in Milan, and I said, how do you do it? And he said, a 300-2.8 in the back of the room, Ektachrome 1600 at whatever it was, 250-2.8. And good luck with the follow focus, because there was no autofocus
right. Yeah.
in 1989.
Wow.
So
how'd those come out?
Dude, if I had 6 that were sharp or 10, because I could never teach my brain which way the barrel had to go as the model was walking at me.
Right. Yeah.
And by the way, those guys, those men and women are phenomenally talented. And back in the day, they were animals. They were just like elbows, and you're in my way and you're in my shot. And, you're showing up with a pouch full of film.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to change film, because if you miss the outfit coming down the runway, your newspaper or magazine or wire service is pissed off. What do you mean you don't have the red dress?
Wow. The one thing I did learn from shooting weddings, I started shooting weddings at 16, and my dad owned the whole thing. I shot weddings for him, but I would shoot when the couple would leave, when they're leaving to go to the limo or whatever. He had figured out exactly what to set the focus on the camera. And he would tell me, say, when they get into this part of the frame right here, that's when you hit the button, because that means they're in focus. So I would just sit there and watch it. And as soon as they filled that frame to right where I knew it was supposed to be, I'd hit that button in focus every single time. And it worked out great when I shot my friend's wedding, and I drank a little too much. And by the end of the evening, I just knew I didn't have to worry about focusing. So
it took me years on the sidelines of football games to realize that you've got the long glass, 400, 600, and you've also got the 50 around your neck, that if you pre-focused the 50, Walter Yos, thank you very much, those pictures were going to be mostly sharp, when the wide receiver jumps for, the bomb in the corner of the end zone.
Yeah, right there in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
How long did you shoot that, or how often?
Sports?
Yeah.
Sports was every year in college, and probably for another, 84, another 5 years.
Okay.
After that.
Did you enjoy that?
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
But I also knew that I was just epically out of my depth in terms of the guy who just shoots sports.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah, I love shooting sports when I can, but I don't get to do it very often. But I used to shoot it, like you said, I used to shoot it in middle school, high school, college. I shot it then and loved it, but I just haven't done a whole lot.
And here's the thing, knowing the game,
Yeah.
knowing the team, knowing that in this situation, the pass, whether it's in basketball or football, is probably going to go here.
Yep.
You know, like I now can anticipate shots in the genres that I work in, but it didn't even occur to me to anticipate the shots in sports. I just wasn't that experienced.
Well, I think it makes a huge difference. The longer you do it, the more you learn. I mean, because I know these, and I think even kids now, guys now, girls now who are shooting, I used to be able to tell you what to set the camera on, and still pretty much can. Basically looking at the light based on whatever ISO I'm shooting at, go, okay, the camera needs to be set at this shutter speed, this opening, whatever. And I don't know a lot, but it was because I did it for so long and so often, and I had a light meter. So I was constantly going with the light meter, checking it, and then having to go set the camera, where now you just shoot it and look at the back of your camera and go, no, and then you make your adjustments off of that. So
Exactly.
I think it's probably the same kind of thing. The more you do it, the more you get into it. So your wife was obviously the person who kind of helped steer you into where you ended up today, I'm guessing.
There's no question. Yeah, and she is still a phenomenally savvy critic of my work. Question.
I think we may be married to very similar women.
And there goes the screen.
Oh, yeah, there it went.
5D Mark III.
Yeah, I shoot Nikons, and they do the same thing. They disappear after so much time. Yeah, my wife, she actually is the reason I was shooting weddings and bands. And then my wife had been at a modeling agency, and she's like, you should go to this agency. I started shooting for them a little bit, and that led me into shooting the stuff I shoot now. But then she's also like, yesterday I was editing an image. I'd edited images and was photoshopping one of them, and I kind of composited some stuff and came in, and she sat down in the chair to write something. She looked up and saw what I was working on. She goes, right there, you need to fix this on her knee. I was like, all right. Yeah. So it's good. I think it's good to have her, have a woman like that who'll help you, or anybody actually who'll help you. Definitely to have your wife do it that you live with, can come in and see it at any time of the day.
No question.
Yeah. So what is your favorite thing to shoot? So, I mean, you shoot everything. You shoot single people, you shoot movie posters, magazines, you shoot groups. What's if you could choose one, like say you were able to pick an assignment next week, what would it be? What was the thing you'd want to shoot?
I am up for any challenge, and I'm sure there are some dream assignments, but like a group portrait of the entire royal family.
Okay.
In England,
yeah.
Sign me up. But I don't know that I've got a favorite thing, because my nerve endings are just kind of so raw and open to any possibility that comes down the pike. I do love a great magazine assignment, and I love it because it's fast and furious, and it's scrappy.
Yep.
And I get a lot of input.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
On the commercial assignments, I just don't have as much input, because by the time the assignment gets to me, it has been vetted by, dozens of people.
Yeah.
But the editorial shoot, there's usually maybe one or two people from the magazine that are giving input. And then you're dealing with the talent and their publicist, or the subject and some other gatekeeper. But it's still just split-second decision-making and going with your gut, and really not kind of second-guessing, and not just doing coverage for the sake of coverage, which you have to do with commercial work.
Yeah, I can see that. With the magazine, the editorial stuff, when you shoot somebody who has a publicist or a handler or whatever, how has that changed over the last 10, 15 years? I mean, do they have more input now than they used to? Do they have any input on set for stuff like that? Or are they just kind of, I'm assuming they have some kind of input, but
A, don't get me started.
yeah.
B, if you have any listeners or viewers that are publicists, my mouth is sealed. And C, it's like anything else, where depending on the publicist's level of confidence in themselves and, trust with the photographer, they're going to be really involved, or they're not going to be involved at all. But the publicist is the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this long enough where most of the publicists trust me and are also looking for my input. And I know a couple of dozen of them really, really well and really like working with them. But their first responsibility is to protect their client, protect/promote their client,
Right.
Down a certain trajectory. And, it's like, I used to say this about, overzealous makeup people, where they don't feel like they're doing something unless they're doing something.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard for all of us to peel back to get to a less is more place.
Has there ever been a time where, say, the subject you're shooting was all up for an idea, the handler, the publicist, not so much up for it, and you went ahead and shot it without them knowing it, or just shot it instead because the subject was like, yeah, let's do it? Have you had any of those kind of deals?
Every permutation that you can imagine,
Yeah, has happened.
We have encountered.
Okay.
And I have developed over the years another skill set of being able to, I'm not going to use the word convince, I'm going to use the word advocate for the picture that I want to make. And you have to be, again, you need that psychology degree, because you've got to be able to read the room and, understand how far you can push before you have to pull back.
Right.
So, I'm a very, very big believer in getting everybody on the same page as soon as possible, not springing anything on anybody,
right,
unless it is truly something that is happening in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done that before. I was shooting, I think it was the president of Bank of America, and then I was shooting like the CFO or something. And we had to have it, they come in, you shoot, you got to have it set up. They come in, they leave quick. The CFO, we shot him, and I had an idea as he was doing something. I was like, I wanted to shoot him sitting on the ground because it was going to be this really cool angle. And his handler was like, no, that'll make him look weak if you shoot him the way you're wanting to do it. I don't want him sitting on the ground looking weak. And luckily I had a Polaroid. It was shooting film. I had a Polaroid back, slapped it on, showed him what I was wanting to shoot. It's like, here's what I want to pull out of this. And they're, oh, okay, now you can do it. But yeah, it is one of those things where you have to be able to talk to people and have a decent personality and read how strong they feel about whatever it is they're talking about and move forward with it if you can, I guess.
And that comes back to this idea of being really prepared. So I will, test each of the situations with either, a crew member in front of the camera or me in front of the camera. And then when it comes time for the talent to walk on set, or the subject or whomever, I will bring them to the monitor and say, I'd like to do this and this and this, but I think we should do this with the green dress, and maybe we should do this without the elephant, maybe a giraffe. What do you think? Because, all these years later, everybody is savvy.
Yeah.
And everybody is guarded to some extent.
I think it helps to be prepared. It makes things go a lot smoother.
Oh my God, don't get me started.
Client so much more at ease when you're prepared, as opposed to just showing up and going, I don't know, maybe we shoot over here. What do you think about that? Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Preparation is huge.
Speaking of preparation, how much prep do you have to do to shoot backstage for the Academy Awards and all that kind of stuff?
um, that that's reportage, and the preparation comes from maybe getting there a day early and getting all of those crew members that are working to recognize that you're going to be there and saying hi to them and bringing them a print of them from last year.
Oh, smart.
So it's you're just greasing the wheel, honestly, because you're going to be working cheek and jowl with these people. So regardless of where I'm going or what I'm doing, I want to get there early. I want to scout. I want to meet everybody. I want to know, where can I plug in? Where's the fuse box on this house that was built in 1930? It's preparation.
That's smart. Yeah. I hadn't even thought about the whole getting there a day early and talking to the crew and giving, that's amazing. So
they're there to work. You're
Right.
there to capture it. You're going to be on top of them.
Yeah.
You just have to assume you're going to be a pain in the ass.
Right. Do you more or less have all access backstage to get what you want wherever?
I have not shot backstage at the Academy Awards in a couple of years, mainly because Entertainment Weekly, for whom I was shooting it, got out of the A, weekly business,
Right.
and B, the reportage business. But when I was shooting it, I did have close to unlimited access. The next highest level of access would have been the photographers that were hired by the Academy.
Okay. Wow, that's pretty good. All right. I just saw, what kind of dog do you have?
That is a 15-and-a-half-year-old white lab.
Oh, boy or girl?
That is a male, and he is walking in circles. I think there could be some early onset dementia. He's definitely not going to run any races.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah, I have a 4-year-old yellow lab, but it's female. Yeah.
And there he goes. See
What's wrong? What happened? Did he have surgery or something?
Yeah, there was a recent surgery.
Okay.
Yeah. But he's still, fairly mobile.
Yeah, he looks good. Yeah, I like him. I like labs. Do you shoot mostly DSLRs, or are you shooting with medium formats, or is it just vary, or?
Both. And it really is the right tool for the job.
When do you pull out the medium?
I have this bizarre ancient, I think, what's it called? Physiological response to both formats, that the DSLR is a landscape horizontal camera.
Yeah.
And that the medium format is a vertical camera.
Okay.
So most of my portraiture, my vertical portraiture, is on the Hasselblad.
Okay.
However, if I need to capture movement and high-speed action, even on a seamless, I will probably go for the Canon.
Okay.
And the Canon is my reportage camera. It's my landscape camera. It's my double-page spread in the magazine camera. But it absolutely is about the right tool for the job.
Yeah, I just didn't know if this, because I've seen a lot of photographers sticking with the DSLRs lately, I guess because it's gotten up to like 40-something megapixels on some of them. But it seems like a lot of megapixels to cram into a 35-millimeter sensor.
Well, there are, for me, a number of factors at work beyond sensor size. There's the aspect ratio of the lens and the not the file size of the sensor, but the actual physical size of the sensor, and how that depth of field falls off on a medium format. Then there's the ISO capabilities. So there are a number of different, and the 6-speed, so there's at least 4 factors going into my deciding which camera I'm going to grab.
All right. Well, that all makes sense. Absolutely. All right. So tell me give me one favorite shoot, like one thing that sticks in your head, whether it's from when you first started shooting to yesterday. What's a shoot that you're just like, this was one of my favorite shoots?
All right. I'm going to pick 2 kind of what I would believe to be obvious ones. And that is photographing the president and Mrs. Obama in the White House.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Just to be able to work in the White House is crazy.
What kind of clearance did you have to get? How was the process of getting clearance to get in there to shoot?
You send in your name and social security number, and they make sure that you're not on any kind of terrorist watch list. Okay. You get that approval to be, in the building. Then you get to the Pennsylvania Avenue gate at a designated time. You open all of your cases. A bomb sniffing dog comes and goes through all the cases. Then a Secret Service agent comes and runs a wand all over the gear. Then you go through a metal detector, just like at every airport in the country. Gather up all your gear, and you roll in. But back to this idea of behind the scenes and the field trip.
Yeah. Boom.
Mind blown. Then I would also have to say, the Paramount 100, because the scale was just insane. And being able to capture all of those people in camera, not adding anybody in post-production.
That's unbelievable to get that many people with those schedules all there at one time. How long did it take you to prepare for that one? I mean, to get set up, to get
oh my God.
Yeah.
That was a couple of months of homework. And I think the set was 2 to 3 weeks in the making, 2.5 to 3. And my crew and I got in on the Monday and shot on the Friday.
Oh, wow. Who'd you use for stand-ins for all that with that many people?
Excellent question. And instead of hiring stand-ins, Paramount, which ran the shoot, Paramount went to a temp agency.
Smart.
And all of a sudden, there were 116 temps in front of us, each of them with a name, 8.5 by 11 name tag. And we had to test drive not just the light and the placement, but how long is it going to take to load 116 people?
Oh, yeah. Damn. Yeah, at first I thought you were going to say they just had you shoot 100 mannequins. Just set up a bunch of mannequins on there.
No. Human beings.
Yeah, that was genius, though, to hire just temps. Because I'm sure it was much, much cheaper to do that.
I wouldn't know, but I'm assuming you are correct.
Yeah, I would think. So at what point, how did you learn to shoot with that much lighting? So, I mean, it sounds like you started off shooting very little lights or strobes to maybe 1 or 2, I'm guessing. And then you end up with some of the stuff I've seen you have on Instagram, and I'm assuming that one had to have tons of lighting going on to make it all look decent.
Let me see how easy it would be for me to find. I think this is going to be pretty easy. Am I allowed to share this?
Absolutely.
The screen. Okay. So let's see. And there it is. Okay, let's open that. So, it's just a matter of 2 things. It's a matter of scale and just scaling up. And it's also, this is not opening. Let's see if it does open. It's also a matter, and I've said this before in other interviews, of taking what seems to be an enormous problem. How do you eat an elephant? one bite at a time.
Yeah.
And you just break it down, break it down, break it down, break it down, break it down. Oh, wow. I've never seen a keynote break like that. Okay. All right. I'm going to keep digging in. I'm going to ignore that phone.
All right.
And I'm going to attempt to find the picture for you.
Okay.
So my crew and I just broke it down, and we just, a lot of this stuff is making it up as you go.
Yeah.
Let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, because I didn't know anybody that had ever shot that many people indoors and lit them. So
the first time you had a shoot, what was the first shoot you had where you had to have a ton of lighting like that? Do you remember that shoot?
Well, I don't think there's any
question. Not even for the 100 people, but say you had to go with like 5, 6 lights or something like that.
Oh, okay. So now I'm forgetting this password. Now I am not a robot. Okay. This is going to take a little while, but it's worth it. I would have to dig in, but I'm going to say that it was probably a shoot I did for CBS way back in like 2003, 4, 5, which was called the CBS Mondo shoot. And the CBS Mondo shoot required an entire soundstage with multiple set pieces.
Oh, wow.
For multiple television shows.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where I was first involved with just scaling up and scaling up and scaling up.
Yeah. Damn. So I saw you also shoot in motion now. Some. How's that?
Absolutely.
Do you like that?
I do. And I think that years ago when motion first happened, I kind of understood that there was going to be, oh my God, this is taking forever and I apologize.
That's all right.
Let's try that. Okay. I realized that that still photographers are both directors and DPs.
Right.
So when motion came along, I believed, had a choice to make. And the choice was, are we going to direct or are we going to camera operate?
Yeah.
And I chose to be a director. I chose to continue to direct the talent while a more experienced camera operator was, behind the lens.
Right. Yeah. Actually, I actually got into that in college with the TV broadcasting thing and really enjoyed it. And then got out of it once I got out of school, and because I didn't have all that equipment. And then when all this started coming back and you could shoot video from your camera, your DSLR, that's when I started getting back into it a little bit more. I haven't done much, but I enjoy it. I think it's fun to shoot. So tell me about, there's got to be a shoot that you've done where either you thought it was great and everybody else thought it sucked or was not to standard, or you thought it was horrible and everybody else thought it was the best thing they've seen in a while. Have you had any of those experiences?
I used to do a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking.
Yeah.
And I used to come away from my shoots really, kind of regretting, what I had done. And I don't second guess myself as much as I used to. And you know what? I am not able to, unfortunately, find this keynote, which is really, really bumming me out. Really bumming me out. Um, let me
Well,
see.
if it
Hold on.
pops up, you can always send it to me and I can throw it in at some point.
One more
It
place.
pops up.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so there's that, and then nope. And I think I might also have a very short memory for shoots that I thought were great and that the client was not happy with. I would love to say that that's never happened, but I'm sure that's naive. But I will say that I do have a very short memory for that.
Well, that's probably good. The only one I can remember for me was I had one, but I was shooting it for myself for my book. And I shot one and got into this fairgrounds and got in early before anybody was allowed in there. Got the model, the clothes, it all looked great. I was excited about the fact that they let me in to this place when nobody was there. Shot the whole thing, took it to New York, showed it to some friends who were art buyers. They looked at it and like, don't show this to anybody ever. I was like, what's wrong with it? I told them, it's like, then they blamed it on, they're like, the model's not good at all. And you can't show this. So I learned a little bit from that. And I also learned that just because it took a lot of effort to get the shot doesn't necessarily make it a great shot if all the elements aren't playing the way they're supposed to.
No, you know what, that is that's huge. And understanding that's essential to every photographer, is that you're probably not the best critic of your own work.
Yeah, for sure.
For all kinds of reasons. Not the least of which is that you are too married to the experience of the shoot to really appreciate whether or not the shoot was successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm way better at that now. So I'll shoot something and I show it to somebody, because then I was extremely disappointed. I thought I put all this effort into it. And now if I shoot and I show it and I don't get wow, that's a great shot, they go, it's all right. It doesn't offend me anymore or disappoint me, I guess is the way just put it, that it like it used to. And I just go, all right, well, I put a lot of work into setting this up. I should have done a little more on whatever end. Luckily, that hasn't happened in a while. As I've gotten older, I've figured out all the pieces and how to make them work. So thank God. But when I was younger, it was happening a little more often.
I found it. Bear with me.
Cool.
And there's that.
Wow.
So those are the packs and the modifiers and the guys and the heads. And
how many packs is that?
I think
3, 4, 5.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 10, 20, 30. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So each of those clumps is 10 packs?
Yes, that's what one.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 packs.
Wow.
And that's how it rolled in.
Pack, or did you do multiple heads, 2 heads per pack?
No, the bi-tubes.
Okay.
Then we mapped it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And God, I haven't shown this in a long time. And they built us some truss, and we color coded, all the heads to match our schematic. And we attached the heads, and we flew up the packs.
So the packs are in the air? Wow, okay.
The packs are on what are called green beds up,
Yeah.
up above. And then, once they were up there, we hadn't done the math on how were we going to fire them.
Yeah, I was wondering if they were all on slave and you just were firing off one pack and all the rest are on slaves, or
that's what had to happen, but we needed the one pack. So up there somewhere is one head that is aimed at all of the other packs.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a head up there whose job it is just to fire all of the packs.
Did you have multiple guys up there or people up there just the whole entire time, like making sure all
On the day there were 4 or 5 guys up there.
Yeah. Wow.
Because there were other packs. So then, we do what we always do, which is just light, one light at a time, add the other light, add the next light, do a little YMCA, hit the left, hit the middle, hit the right, and really understand what the light is actually doing. And what you can't see are these guys now have an edge light.
Yeah, I was noticing that.
Yeah, there's a hair light because these people are going to be against black.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So did you figure that part out before you got there? Or is that one of those where when you got there, you're like, damn, we need a hair light?
I think it might have been one of those, oh crap, we're going to need hair light things. Then the logo, as you can see, is actually cut out of styrofoam, which means it had depth, which means we needed to see the depth. So what we did was we figured out that we needed to build this weird rig to go underneath
Oh, wow.
the lights to light up the underside of the stars.
Damn. That's amazing.
So that thing lived right here.
So that's pointed at the stars and the Paramount sign.
This was just to light up the stars because the
Okay.
stars were behind the logo.
Right. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So how much did you do in post on this as far as retouching?
Well, the post-production, if we scroll down, the post-production was actually a build because we had a left frame and a middle frame and a right frame. And so my retoucher not only sewed together left, middle, and right, but I also added a far left and a far right to show off the stage.
Wow.
Because I loved how those 100-year-old stage walls were taking the reflected light off of the set piece.
Yeah, they look great. So what made you decide to do it in 3 separate or multiple shots like that as opposed to just backing the hell up with a wide lens?
Because I knew that we tried a couple of different lenses, by the way. But I knew that, the wide lens was always going to be tweaky, and that a longer piece of glass, shot in, multiple frames was going to bring everybody closer and flatten them in a way that a 35 or a 50,
Right.
and again, I'm talking about 35 millimeter, wouldn't. So if we go back up here to the camera.
Okay, I was going to ask you how you did the 3 different shots.
Here we were testing the camera. And then eventually the guys at Paramount built us a stage, and the camera sat on this stage, anchored to the stage, so it didn't move. And there was our backup camera. So it looks like we were actually shooting, a pretty long lens. And I could look that up, but I think we were probably shooting maybe the 150.
Oh, yeah, it looks like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you did you just sit there at the camera and you just turn it to the left, center, and to the right, or did you actually move it?
Oh no.
So you moved.
Well, over the years, I used this technique of shooting a left and a right frame when I was shooting my double page spreads on the Mamiya RZ.
Okay.
So way back in the day, I would shoot a left and a right, and in Photoshop, my retoucher would blend them, which gave the look of the final image this bigger, flatter, cinematic look. So we had done it before.
Right.
We had
Okay.
just never done it, kind of that big.
Yeah. God, that's amazing. See all the work you put into that. Damn. Yeah. I can see why it took forever to plan that out and then set it all up. Yeah. So what's that? What, 100, 160 heads? 80
Uh,
packs?
well, half as many if they're all bi-tubes. It's
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
40 heads.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you for showing me that. That was amazing.
absolutely.
Yeah. So what about your dad, man? Were you surprised by all the attention you got from on Instagram? And I guess you ended up, I think I heard you on something saying that German GQ or somebody picked up the shots of your dad.
German GQ ran it first, and then New York Magazine had a special issue about the elderly. And that was absolutely not my intention. My intention was, I'm not shooting anything else,
Right.
but I am taking pictures of my dad and, reportage on the iPhone. And, I just posted one. And actually, the minute you and I are done, I'm going to be posting my visit with him from Tuesday.
Okay.
And the thing is that not only were there, kind of really poignant, sad pictures to be done, but, his wit that I'd always appreciated would come through. I was just literally typing up what he said. Didn't have really any inkling that was going to be a panacea for some of the people that follow.
Yeah, I thought it was amazing because I was sitting there looking at it. I was like, these are cool shots. And then I heard that, they had been picked up by 2 magazines. And then my next thought was, nobody giving a damn if like if I'd shot my dad, they'd have been like, that's some cool shots that I gotten some likes. But the power of, I think, social media, your followers, all that, it's pretty incredible. And I think it was a cool deal to have something like that up there. And the way you shot it, to have that little bit of reflection coming in as well with you blocking off your dad, I think was nice as well.
Yeah, and you know what? Those lighting conditions have not happened since, which were a completely flat day, overcast,
Yeah.
which, allowed me to essentially see everything at essentially the same value, including my reflection.
Right.
And the reflection behind me. Like right now, the scene right now is, I was out there on Tuesday and the sun is out and it's incredibly contrasty. And it was, that first one was just serendipity.
Yeah, it was really nice. I liked the way it all turned out. Is there a chance you're going to get to actually get in there and see your dad anytime soon, or are they still keeping everybody out for a while?
I call every 2 weeks and say, hey, can he come outside if I'm wearing a mask? And they're like, no, we're not there yet.
Well, maybe sometime soon. God,
I'm hoping.
Yeah, no kidding. So what's the longest you've waited on a celeb to show up?
Oh, wow. Wow. Great questions, and, good for me for suppressing the memories. But I will say that Faye Dunaway had, iced me and my crew, I think, for a solid 6.
Really? You think there's a reason for that? Like, you think this is done on purpose by people?
Well,
or is it just one where I'm not interested in shooting and I'm going to put it off until I absolutely have to?
No, God love her. She is a notorious diva,
Okay.
And it's really unfair to pick on her. I'm not picking on her. I'm just relaying my experience. She redid and redid and redid and redid her hair and makeup, redid her wardrobe, got in a cab, left, went home, got something, came back. So, everybody's got their own reasons.
Yeah, I'd heard some story. I want to say it was Elizabeth Taylor. I don't know who. I don't know for sure that it was. That there was some photographer shooting in her house, and she was still like 2-3 hours late.
Oh, sure.
For the shoot. And then I saw it was some reality show with It was a photography team, and I'm blanking on who the team was. They did a lot of fashion stuff, but they were shooting Lindsay Lohan, and it was supposed to be a morning shoot. And they literally sat around until I want to say 9 o'clock that night before she finally showed up.
Oh
And all
my
I was
God.
thinking was, at what point do you say, I'm out? I'm not doing this. I'm not sitting here for, she was supposed to have been here at 9 a.m. It's 9 p.m. She hasn't shown up yet. I mean, don't you maybe at like 5 go, screw this, I'm going home?
You know what? We did that. I do remember a shoot. I will not name the musical artist. She was shooting either a music video or a television commercial. And we were supposed to get her at 4 in the afternoon, and I think we got her at midnight. We were on location, and I am a really big believer in many things. Don't play the diva card.
Yeah.
Unless you are truly being abused or your crew is being abused.
Right.
The client is sticking with it. The client's invested, I'm invested. And
were you at least getting updates on when she may show up?
Ish. But yeah. If they feed my crew, they pay my crew overtime.
Okay.
I'm in it.
Yeah. All right. I can see that. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll let you go with the last question. The strangest or most interesting thing that's ever happened to you since you started shooting? Wow.
That could go so many different ways. So many different ways.
Yeah, I think there might be a few stories, but
oh my God, just so many different ways. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Wow. Curveball. Curveball over the back corner of the plate. I don't know that I'm going to be able to hit it out of the park. Here's the thing. You're wanting to interview me.
Yeah.
My becoming in some small measure, in some way, somebody that people want to hear talk. Still, completely bizarre. That's not.
No, I think that's a great answer.
That's not what I got into photography to do. That is not something that existed when you and I were starting out.
Yeah.
And that just recognizing that the experiences I have some value for other people, being able to share what I do. That, when I get a request like yours, I'm still like, wow, really? Okay. All right. Yeah, absolutely. So that's definitely up there.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah. And I appreciate you doing it. And I mean, even on your Instagram and where you're showing the way the way you light stuff, like the Kevin Hart thing that I just saw that you did, and you showed how you lit it. And I think that's a great thing, especially for these people who want to get into photography and coming up and have no clue and don't have anybody really to help them. Because when I was coming up, nobody was showing you anything. Nobody wanted to teach you unless you had literally taken a class or were friends with somebody. Nobody's showing you how to do anything unless you're really good friends with them, because I guess they're afraid you're going to take their job or something. So
I always came from the position of, I learned all this stuff on my own. And instead of reacting like, I'm not going to tell you, you go figure it out yourself, I always thought like, God, I wish, I want to emulate what I described at the beginning, which was somebody answered the phone and told me how to put lights up.
Right.
And I want to be able to do that for as many people as possible. I want to pay that forward. And the Instagram thing is really funny because the two questions I get asked the most are, who writes your captions? And why are you giving away all this information?
Really?
And my answers are, I write them, which is its own
actually type it out, or do you?
Oh my God, yes.
Get in there?
Oh no. I type it on my laptop or my desktop, and I email it to myself, copy and paste.
Okay.
I can't thumb it. And part two is, while I might be showing where the lights were or what the exposure was, that is 1/8 of the stuff we dealt with on the shoot.
Yeah.
And social media, Instagram is not the platform to get into all of the politics, all of the logistics, all of the issues. So I extract what I believe to be kind of the most interesting issue that we had to deal with, which was, in that case, the most interesting technical issue, apart from wearing a mask and being socially distant, which was, putting a light in the refrigerator.
Yeah, I like that light in the fridge idea. That was
which I haven't done in 1,000 years. Remember the Vivitar 283?
Yes. Yeah.
That thing went anywhere.
Right.
Little peanut slave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You could put that thing anywhere.
Yes.
Oh my God, that thing was such an amazing workhorse. I'm just heartbroken thinking about a Vivitar 283, and I'm going to go see if I've even got one in the garage. So anyway, happy to write the captions myself, happy to have it in my voice, and happy to share what I can.
Well, I think it's great. And like you said, you shouldn't, my wife was like that even when we first met, or when she first started hanging out with me and I was meeting other photographers. There was someone who came up and asked me something, and she's like, "Why are you being like that? That's your competition." And I'm like, they're not going to see it like I see it. They're not going to be able to talk to the client the way I talk to the client. They're not going to know exactly how I'm shooting any of it. They just know, here's what I did from, maybe I, use a reflector over here or light over here, but they're not going to be able to replicate it the way I did it. And the client's not going to have the same experience. So I'm not worried about it. If they're better than me, they're better than me. And then I have to step my game up next time.
That's exactly right. And the new restaurant does not forbid the chef of the restaurant from across the street from coming in and sitting down and having a meal.
Right.
It's an honor.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you doing this, Art. Good luck to your daughter. I hope. Where can you find her album? And what's her name? Tell me her name again.
Her name is Siena.
Okay.
Siena. If you type Siena Streiber into YouTube, you'll find the concert from the other night. And just about every single streaming platform that you can name, you can find Siena, the album, Siena Streiber, the artist.
Okay, great. Well, cool. Hopefully everybody checks that out. And
thank you very much.
When you talk to Ken, tell him I said hi.
I will. I'm going to be talking to him at 4:30 this afternoon.
Okay, good. Well, yeah, then definitely tell him I said hi.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Best of luck.